Good morning, good morning, good morning, man. Good morning. What's up, man? Coming in hot this morning. There's a whole battle with Turki Alalshikh and Canelo and Terence Crawford and David Benavidez. It's a whole war going on social media right now. So funny. Oh, I love it, man. I love a little drama every now and then when it comes to boxing. But I'm not going to get too deep into it. I made a video yesterday about it. I'm not going to keep you know, making content every time Canelo responds to Turkey, or Turkey responds to Canelo, and it's too much, man. But good morning, man. We're gonna talk about 154 today, my favorite division. It's really, really heating up, and I was in deep thought about this, and I'm ready to put out the breakdown for well, I'm gonna record it probably after I get off live today. Shout out to everyone that's joining us, man. Shout out to everyone that's here. What's up, Glenn? What's good with you, Texas? Dallas, Texas. I'm actually gonna do some Texas talk in this video because we know Virgil Ortiz is fighting this weekend, but I got that breakdown on the way. But we're gonna do some Texas talk today. And I have an idea that I was thinking about. I was doing some thinking last night about 154 because how there's a lot of fighters right now. There's a lot of undefeated guys. There's a lot of guys that that are kind of unknown here. Madrimov was one of them, but everybody knows him, respect him now. But we have a lot of fights to be made at 154. We're going to discuss it. And I definitely want to hear your views and comments on are we going to even get an undisputed? Like, do you guys clearly see a potential undisputed fighter at this division in the near future? But we're going to talk about everything 154. And we're going to talk a little bit about Virgil Ortiz and his fight this weekend. Excuse me. And I will be covering the fight live. Virgil Ortiz is going to be fighting Sergey Bohachuk. And this is going to be for the WBC interim title. All right. And this is Sebastian Fundora is the actual full champion right now with the WBC after that win, a controversial win against Tszyu. And we're going to talk about Tszyu as well. So we're going to talk about everybody, and we're going to bring up some of the few guys that's just because they lost, it doesn't mean they're out of the picture. Madrimov, yes, he just lost to Bud, but let's not get it twisted. He still might be a lot of these guys at the division. So we're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about some guys like Erickson Lubin. We're going to talk about Brian Castaño. Where is he? What happened to him? We're going to talk about Jesus Ramos. He's still where is he? We're going to talk about a lot of guys, and we're going to talk about guys like Xander Zayas as well, who's on the come up at 154. So there's a lot to discuss, and we're going to talk a little bit about Boots. You know what? Might as well add Boots to the list as well, because I don't think he's going to come up at 154, but I don't think he's going to be sticking around at 147 for a long time either. So we're going to talk about all of these potential fights here and whether or not Crawford can do it. Can he become undisputed here? And, this is Errol Spence. We got to talk about Errol and, what is he going to do? Is he going to win against Fedora? So there is an ongoing tournament right now. But you got to understand, Chance said, yeah, Chance. He said, create a tournament bracket. I might do that. I think that's a good idea. This is the thing, though. There are going to be fights in between these fights. It's not like everybody's just going to boom, unify. I mean, it could happen because if we can get certain fighters to get paid step aside money, then we might get them straight through. But you got to understand, some of these fights are interim fights here. Some of these fights, Sebastian Fundora won the WBO and the WBC. But Crawford, even though he's a WBA champion, the full champion, he's still the WBO interim champ. I don't know if they officially stripped Fundora of the WBO yet, because on BoxRec, and I'm going to pull it up right here, Fundora is still listed as the WBO champion. So And I'm not saying BoxRec is, sometimes it's a little, a little bit off, but most of the time they're on point. And I don't believe that Sebastian Fundora has been stripped of that title. Okay. All right, so we're gonna talk about all of this, man. Again, it's 154, and I actually want to make the same kind of video soon about 140, because I think 140 is getting to a point where we're gonna have a tournament too, because we've been getting nothing but upsets at 140. Devin Haney and his upset loss against Ryan Garcia. Liam Paro with his upset win over what's his name? What's the Cuban fighter? Sabria Matias, Puerto Rican fighter. I'm sorry. So we're gonna talk about that and some potential fight. Alberto Puello being Gary Antoine Russell. I mean, there's a lot happening at 140 too, and there's no one safe. So we'll be making a video on that soon too. All right, but we're gonna get through 154 today. All right. Oh yeah, and you got Ryo and Pitbull. Yeah, you're right. You got Ryo and Pitbull in that division as well. All right, so we'll talk about that in a future live, and we can discuss. I think 140 is neck and neck between 154 and 140. Those two are like two massive divisions where we could get some excellent fights. And I think 140 probably, to me, in my opinion, might be the second best division. Right there, up there with 154 or 1A and 1B. All right. All right. So shout out to everyone that's here. Again, shout out to Glenn, shout out to Sayo Abel, Cooking, Chance, who else is here? Dirty Water, or Dry Water. I'm sorry, Dry Water. Coyote, what's up, brother? He says, thank you for the donation. He says, Subway, what do you think about Tszyu calling out? But I'm not even paying attention to that. I'm not paying attention to it. I'm not. It's not. I get it. Tszyu looks good when he steps up, but let's not get crazy. I know Tszyu looks good in his best fights. He showed up against Josh Taylor. He showed up against Lomachenko. But let's not get crazy. Let's not get crazy. I don't even know if Tszyu is the best at 140. Does he get through everybody at 140? I don't even think so. I mean, did you see the Steve Claggett fight? I saw it. I was like, do you get through guys at 147? Like, so I'm not taking Teofimo Lopez seriously. I'm just not. There's a lot of fighters at 140. I think if he were to fight all of them, he would lose at least two of them. And that's not me being a hater or anything. Like, Teal's a good fighter, and I think he's at his best when he steps up. But I also believe that depends on the styles, he's not going to look too good. So it is what it is. All right, so let's talk about 154, man. Let's get through it. All right, so this weekend, we might as well start out with the fight that's coming up. Well, let's start out with the fight that just happened. We all already. I was live. Shout out to everyone that was on the live commentary the other day, man. And shout out to you guys that stuck around. I think this was like the longest or one of the longest lives I've ever did. And we was on for 8 hours, man. My dad, my cousin was here. 8 hours, man. And listen, it's not easy to sit here and talk to you guys for 8 hours straight for a third of the entire day. So it's not easy, but shout out to all the new supporters and all of that. But Terrence Crawford just beat Israel Madrimov, though. So Terrence, and I've said this before the fight, even if Terrence Crawford wins this fight against Madrimov, I am not sure that he beats everybody at 154. Why? Because this division is the danger zone. It's the danger zone, man. Everybody takes an L here. Not everybody just comes through and beats everybody along the way. Yes, Jamel Charlo became undisputed, but he took a loss in between that. He almost lost to Brian Castano in the first fight. Most people think he lost that fight. So with that being said, it's not an easy road at 154. And Crawford going up in weight, the power is still there. So I don't, and that's the thing about the fight with Madrimov. I don't think that because he didn't get the knockout, that it necessarily means like he doesn't have the power. He still have the power. It's just that Madrimov, just like Crawford, they both played it extremely smart. Neither one of them got out of hand. Madrimov said prior to the fight that I'm going to try my best to not make a mistake, because he was responding to Crawford. Crawford said, I'm going to capitalize on when you're going to make a mistake. Because if we watch the film study, we seen him lunging in. You know what I mean? We seen him with his hands down at times. So Madrimov fought an excellent fight. All right. Didn't get hit too much. He had a lot of success with the lead right hand. We saw that. Was it enough? I don't believe so, but it was still a good fight. It was a highly skilled technical chess match between two excellent fighters. But it doesn't necessarily mean that Crawford can't knock people out. Because did you guys see Madrimov's face at the end of the fight? He got busted up pretty much, pretty bad. Crawford did too. Crawford had swelling on his eye. It doesn't mean nothing, but what it could mean, it could mean that Madrimov might arguably be a top 3 fighter at the division right now. Because what if he goes on to beat a Bakram Murtasaliev or a Virgil Ortiz Jr. or a Tszyu? What if he is to go on and beat some of these guys that are top guys at the division? What if Jermell Charlo comes back and fights him and loses to him? Is the decision win for Crawford going to look so bad then? So we just got to be patient and wait and see how these fights unfold, because Crawford might take an L in his next fight. We have no idea what's going to happen. We have no idea, but we got to sit back and watch and see what happens, because this one fight, all it did is give us a new title holder and a new champion at 154. It doesn't necessarily mean that Crawford is the best at the division. It doesn't mean that Madrimov is the second best. It doesn't mean none of that. None of that. And guess what? This fight coming up this weekend, which I'm going to talk on now, and I'm going to do a breakdown. So be on the lookout for the breakdown, but I'm going to talk about it now. Virgil Ortiz Jr. this weekend, okay, against Bohachuk. I keep messing up his name. I'm going to say Bohachuk because I keep trying to say Bohachuk, because that's the way they pronounce it when they interview him and when they call in a fight to do the commentary. But I have Bohachuk in my head because that's the way I've always thought it was said. So I keep trying to say it correctly, but I'm just throwing I'm throwing myself off. All right, but Virgil Ortiz is fighting Bohachuk, and I think Virgil is gonna win. I think I watched Bohachuk, ever since I, knew who he was. I went back, I saw his fights, and I think he's good. He's a puncher. He got experience. He was a good amateur. I just think Virgil's going to do it. I think he's going to get it done. With that being said, though, the winner of that fight still has work to do too. And the winner of that fight will be the interim champion. And they should be fighting the winner of Fundora and Errol Spence Jr. And this is what that Texas talk that I was talking about. If Virgil Ortiz wins this fight this weekend and Errol wins his, right? I don't know where Fundora is from. He's from California. All right. So he's from Florida, but he's based in California right now. If Virgil Ortiz wins that fight and Errol wins against Fundora, that's a big Texas fight right there. That's a big Texas fight right there. But Errol loses. You know what else is a big Texas fight? Virgil Ortiz against Jermell Charlo. Because Jermell Charlo said that he's staying at 154. So Jamil is coming back out from his break. That's a big ass fight right there. You know, that's a big fight. I don't know if Errol, I think Jamil should be jumping on a card ASAP, though. I don't think he should be making his first fight back from the loss to Canelo, because remember, he was already rusty before the Canelo fight. He already had been out the ring for a long time. He had a hand injury. He was supposed to fight Tszyu. So what is he going to do? You know, I think he needs to come back. I think he needs to get in the ring with somebody, you know, get some of that rust off and prepare for one of these big fights, because at the end of the day, he still has a name. And the longer he stays out, the more buzz he's going to lose. So he needs to get back in this ring, hopefully within the next few months or so, before the end of the year. He needs to at least get a tune-up fight, because Virgil, he's been active, and I know he's only knocking out guys in one round and stuff, but he needs to get back. He needs to get back, Jamil Charlo, because there could still be a big Texas fight somewhere in the mix of all of this between him and Virgil Ortiz. I know him and Spence are probably not going to fight each other, but either Spence and Virgil Ortiz is going to happen, or Charlo and Virgil Ortiz is going to happen. And I think that happens before Bud fights Virgil Ortiz. You know, I think that, you know, I'm not sure, because if Turki steps in, like he said, is like, yo, I want to make Ortiz against Crawford, then we could forget about that. But that Texas fight with Virgil in one of the Charlo or Spence, that could be a fight that could happen anytime. They could do a Dallas thing. They could do a Dallas stadium thing. And I actually want to go to Dallas to watch the fight. I've been saying that for a long time. I've never been. I just went to Texas for the first time, but I've never been to Dallas, and I've never been to. I want to go to a stadium fight at some point. All right. Shout out to everyone that's MAW. What's up? Low Blow Champ, Trey Chi, Santiago Media. What's up? Let me see what you guys are saying. So Santea said a focused Tony Harrison could be a top 3 at 154. I don't think so. I think Tony's passing. I think Tony's passing, and even in a focus prime, Tony has always had 2 issues. He gasses late in the second half of fights, and he's not that durable. So I think with this new crop of guys at 154, I think he loses to the majority of them. I think talent-wise, he would be a great fighter. I think he has the skills, but he fades in the second half of his fights, and he's not that durable. That's always been a problem with Tony. Boxing-wise, though, he's a very, very talented boxer, for sure. Go YouTubian. He says, "What up, my guy? Got here late, going back to the start." All right, got you. Thank you for joining us. Sai says Madrimov is a good fighter. I favor him over Fundora. I favor him over Fundora too. I do. And I think Madrimov, I just want to say this real quick. I think Madrimov is going to be aggressive in other fights. I think he fought like that against Crawford. I think in other fights, he's going to be more aggressive like he was against, what's his name? Who's the opponent he just fought? Kurbanov. All right, so I think he's going to be more aggressive against a Kurbanov. I mean, like a Fundora, you know, who is not like a counter puncher. He's a volume puncher. You know what I mean? A pressure fighter. All right. Yeah, El Chivo just brought up something I didn't even think about. He says he wants to see Keith Thurman come back and take over 154. I don't know about taking over 154. But I could see him coming back. You know, I think the longer he takes to return, the worse it gets. You know, I mean, Keith has not been active in the last, I don't know how many years now. He hasn't been active at all. All right. In the last 7 years or so, right? For Barrios of 2022. He fought Pacquiao 3 years before that. And then he fought Josecito that same year, and then went 2-year layoff with the Danny Garcia. So it's 2017. And before 2017, he fought at least once a year. In 2017, since 2017, he has 1, 2, 3, 4 fights. 4 fights in 7 years, 7 going on 8 years. It's not good. You know, I think what I think is going to happen is I think Keith Thurman's going to come back for a big payday. I think somebody's going to want to fight him for the name, and I think they're going to wash him. I think they're going to wash him. You know, it would have been Tszyu. You know, I remember making content on that. People were saying I'm sleeping on Thurman. I ain't sleeping on Thurman. Thurman was one of my favorite fighters in all of the sport not too long ago. I've been on Pete Thurman since I started his channel. I ain't sleeping on him. I'm just being real. He takes a shot to the body, it's over. You know, it's not going to be getting chased around the ring like Pacquiao did, or Barrios did, or Lopez did, or even Collazo. It's going to be night. You're not getting up for this shot. Because if a Virgil Ortiz is to land that kind of body shot, or Tszyu, you know, one of these guys like Crawford or something like that, it's over. I think Thurman comes back. He's going to give us a good fight for whatever amount of rounds it lasts. But these guys are hungry. They're going to take Thurman out at 154 right now. What I think Thurman should do is go to 147 and fight Boots. That's what he should do. I think that's what he should do. I think if Boots, because Boots, let's be real, and we might as well speak on Boots, even though this is a 154 video. I think I seen somebody leave a comment earlier that they wish Boots would come into the mix and go up to 154. Yeah, Dry Water says it's a shame Boots won't move up and join the stack division. I wouldn't call it a shame. I think Boots should pick up titles at 47. I think at the very least, he should at least be unified. You know, I think he should at least be unified. If he can push to get undisputed, he should try to do that. But going up to 154 right now, he would be in the mix. I think he too will lose to somebody. I think he will lose. I don't think he runs through these guys. He's a great talent, but there's nothing that I've seen so far for him that would make me think that he could go to 154 and just dominate. I don't even think Crawford is just going to just dominate. You know, I don't know if he's going to lose, but I think he's going to struggle through some of this fight, not just the Madrimov fight. I think that the Virgil Ortiz fight is tough. I think the Virgil Ortiz, who else? Tszyu fight is tough. But I think Madrimov was at the top. You know, I think Crawford beat some of these other guys without too much of an issue. You know, I think if he were fighting like a Bohachuk, I think he would knock him out. I think he stops Bakram too. You know, I think he stops him. I'll be more confident in him stopping one of those two. You know, I think I actually don't think Lubin would be an easy fight for Bud. You know, I think Lubin is one of those guys that you fight him on a certain day, you might take an L. You know, I think Lubin is like one of the dark horses in the division. I think he loses to some of these guys, but I think he beats some of them too. All right. I think Charlo is still a dark horse in the division. I think he comes back and might tear some shit up at some point. All right, but these fights just need to be made. But Boots, I think Boots, while he's at 147, at least become unified. All right, go up to 154 when things get consolidated a little. So by the time you get there, and I think that's the plan, because look, his dad, him and his dad can say whatever they want. And I am a big supporter of Boots. This is no hate when I say this. Boots and his dad are very strategic. Let's not get it twisted. I'm sure they believe in his talent, but they are very strategic too. And all that stuff that was going on with the sanctioning bodies, when they switched sanctioning bodies, and you know, things that were said about Showtime and Black Prime, and I think those two are very strategic. I think they know exactly what they're doing. And I think being a part of Matchroom now with Eddie's backing, I think they're going to move carefully. Not saying they're not going to take any risks, but moving to 154 right now when there's no unified champions. Well, technically Fundora is one, but moving at a time where the belts are scattered and there's a bunch of interim champions and there's a bunch of Mandos is very dangerous, because no one has proven right now that they are the best at 154. So I think Team Boots are going to be strategic on the timing that they move up to 154, unless Turki steps in and like, yo, let's make the fight with Crawford right now. And this is what I mean, like, about Turki. There's a positive, and in some cases there's a negative to him being a part of the sport. Because look what's happening with Tank and Canelo. Canelo and Tank clearly are not seeing eye to eye with Turki, because they feel like they're big enough to say, nah, we're doing our own thing over here. We're in control of the fights we're taking. We're not going to let a guy come in with his money and say, this is who you're fighting. Now, in my opinion, the way I look at it, I don't think either side is wrong. I think when you are in a position of like a Tank or an even Crawford, a Canelo, those guys, especially Canelo, let's stick with Canelo more so. Canelo has been in the sport for almost 20 years as a pro. He's been involved with monster pay-per-views. He's been in there with the names. Even with the amount of money Turki is willing to pay him, there's a certain level of pride that Canelo has, that he's like, no, I'm dictating the fights I want. I don't care how much money you're going to pay me. Now, the bad side of that is the quality of the fights. The quality of fights are low. And I know Canelo fans don't disbelieve that he's above criticism. I know that they believe it. That's why I like, when I make content, I already know Canelo can fight, I don't know, Ronald McDonald tomorrow, and those guys are going to still find a way to defend him. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But Canelo, in his defense, I'm not mad at him for saying like, yo, bro, I'm fighting who I want to fight when I want to fight him. You're not going to come in and tell me who I'm fighting next. The flip side of that, when it comes to Turki, though, Turki is like, he's making the quality fights. He's not just paying these guys. He's making the quality of fights, and he's making the promoters work together to make these fights. He's doing what the ultimate fan would do if they had the money and power that he has. So there's people like myself and a lot of you guys, if you are in a position of Turki where you have billions to play with, and you can make whatever fight you want, and you can get these fighters together and say, yo, sit down. This is what we're going to do. I'll pay you this to fight this guy. It's a dangerous fight, and this is why we're getting all these upsets, but I'm going to pay you. In fact, if you lose, I'm going to still put you on another card after, because that's what's going on in the heavyweight division right now. These guys are taking L's and they're getting jumped. They're getting thrown right back on cards again. And that's fire to me, because now we can get rid of that whole, yo, once you take a loss, it's over, it's a wrap, you should retire. That's what boxing fans do. So on the flip side, I get, like, for a guy like Canelo, I understand where he's like, yo, you're not going to tell me what to do in my career. But at the same time, what Turki is doing is positive for the entire sport, not just one fighter, not just the face or faces of the sport. It's better for the entire sport, because now the fighters are getting paid. The promoters are not getting away. I would take Turki over a bunch of fighters or a bunch of promoters that don't want to do business together. I would take him over that way that we had it last year and prior to that. I don't want to ever go back to that again. I don't want it. Never. Let's never return to that. What if we return to fighters just saying, yo, what are you bringing to the table? What is your resume? You ain't fight nobody. Your pay-per-views are trash. Your purses are low. I don't want to go back to that. Do y'all want to go back to that? I don't want to go back to that. I want to be able to wake up, check my Twitter, go on Boxing Scene, go on YouTube, and wake up to big news of a fight that's about to go down that I would never have expected that was going to go down. So Canelo and Tank, you guys could feel whatever way. You could stay with the PBC, and you guys can make whatever fight you want to fight. Your fans are going to support you no matter what you do. But for the rest of the rest of the sport, let them get paid, let them build their resumes and create their own legacy, and give us quality fights. I'll take that over what these two are doing. Picking and choosing who you want to fight and when you want to fight them and the styles that they are. Like, y'all really respect the man saying, I don't want to fight him because his style, because that's what both Canelo and Tank are doing right now. Tank's coach always do these interviews, and he's like, yeah, Shakur is just going to run. It's going to be a boring fight. That's what Canelo been saying too. Do y'all want that? Do you want the whole boxing community to be like that? No, I don't. No, I don't. Great fighters have to take fights against people that stylistically don't match up well against them. You know what I mean? That's what makes you great. And Canelo did that. Canelo did it when he fought Lara. Much respect. When he fought Triple G, much respect. He didn't really want to fight Lara until Lara pissed him off. Oscar didn't want him to fight Lara because he knew it's not a good style matchup for you. That's why he almost lost the fight. But that's greatness. You make adjustments and you prepare for that opponent. But what the kind of shit they're on now is like, listen, it's good for them, but people are getting tired of it, man. People are getting tired of it. So going back to 154, and when it comes to Boots, again, while he's at 147, do your thing. I think Boots slips into 154 if Turki makes a great offer for him and Bud, or even him and Virgil Ortiz, because that's still a thing too. I don't want us to forget about that. Let's not forget about that. Virgil Ortiz and Jaron Ennis was the fight I wanted to see at 150 or 147. I wanted more Crawford and Spence because those were the top dogs. Yes, please smash the like button if you haven't already. All right. If you haven't already, hit the thumbs up for me. If you can, do me that favor, share the video as well. The fight I wanted to see was Crawford and Spence because those were the two champs. But the other fight that I wanted to see was Virgil Ortiz and Jaron Boots Ennis. I had made videos on that fight. And I had changed my picks on those two. Now we still can get that fight, and we should get that fight because they're around the same age. They got hot at the same time. You know, I thought Ortiz was fighting better fighters and he was more active, but then he got sick and he had to pull out a couple of fights. And then Boots, you know, the quality for Via, you know what I mean? Like the quality of the fighters got a little better. But I think the fight happens later. I think Boots stays at 147. And I think he moves up at some point. You know what I mean? I think he moves up at some point when it's going to be very lucrative for him. All right. All right. Let's talk Bakram against Tszyu. Now the fight isn't official yet, but the IBF just ordered it. All right. Bakram was elevated. Well, he wasn't elevated. He won the IBF strap against who's the fighter that's been around for a minute? Jack Koke. Yeah, I got him right here. Jack Koke. He beats Jack Koke. Jack Koke has been around for a really long time. I'm surprised he's still up there. How old is he? He's 38. Okay, so Bakram stops him. All right, I did watch that fight later. Bakram is another power puncher. I believe he's Russian, right? Yeah, he's from Russia. So Bakram is a guy that is just he's a power puncher, you know. Now, I first learned about Bakram back when Jermell Charlo was supposed to be fighting Brian Castano in the rematch. Before that, you know, remember now when that fight happened and they fought to a draw, Bakram was he was already the Mando for Jermell Charlo for one of those titles. And they had to pay him step-aside money in order to have that rematch with Castano. And I remember at that time, a lot of people thought Jermell Charlo was getting out of a rematch. Well, they ended up paying the step-aside, and Jermell Charlo had that rematch with Castano, which made him undisputed. So after Jermell Charlo vacated his titles, Bakram fought Jack Koke recently and became IBF champ. Tszyu, him and Tszyu is a good fight. I'm personally leaning towards Tszyu. Okay. I've seen Bakram fight. Like I looked him up at that point. You know, I watched his fight with Jack Koke. Big puncher, you know, he can box. But I think Tszyu is better. And I can see Tszyu is a good counter puncher. He's not just a good puncher. He's also a good counter puncher. And I see him catching Bakram at some point. You know, I just think that it would be a war because they're just two bigger punchers, and both of them are going to want to come forward and be the alpha. But I just think Tszyu does it a little better. I think he's just more defensive. I think he's a better counterpuncher. You know, I think he has faster hands, and I think that he's gonna win that fight when it happens. But I'm looking forward to it. So there's definitely a tournament going on here, you know, and I can't wait for it to happen. All right. L Dub says Bakram's a protege of Sergey Kovalev. Angel Hall says, were you all alive when Tupac died in 1999 at Mike Tyson fight? Sad day. Yeah, I was alive. And I remember the news broke. I remember that day. I remember going to school that day. I remember everybody in school talking about it. Sad day. All right. Red says, Koke is my age. Make me feel old. Yeah, I'm old too. He says, please, brother, include Charles Conway. He has the goods. Yeah, Charles Conway is another guy that, and I don't know where he's ranked. So the reason why it's not that I'm not trying to include him. And I've seen him fight. I think he's good. I don't know where he's gonna. I don't know how he's going to be in the mix in this period, because he's okay. He's number 2 in the WBC. What I will say with Conway is that layoff he had those couple years. Even though he stopped Nate Gallimore, I wasn't really impressed with him. I think he definitely was rusty in that fight. So it's not that I'm not trying to include him, because I did see his name when I was scrolling to do the top guys at 154. It's not that I'm not trying to include him, but I'm mainly addressing the guys that are champions, interim titles, or top contenders. And Conway is there, but I'm not sold on him yet. And again, that Gallimore fight was like, maybe he needs another fight before we put him right directly in there in the mix. He has a fight coming up. It looks like against the Journeyman, based on his record. I'm not familiar with Mr. Gray here. That's who he's fighting next. I think he's trying to get back in the mix, which is good. But I don't know. No, I didn't forget Ramos. All right, I didn't forget Ramos. I did bring him up earlier. Jesus had a very, very close fight with what's the name, Lubin. So we can't forget him, because that's his only loss. He beat Brian Mendoza before, and he actually ended up. Who else did Ramos beat? Ramos beat somebody. Oh, Joey Spencer. I was so happy when that fight happened. I hate to say it like that. I was so I thought this Joey Spencer kid was so overrated, right? He was like a prospect for the longest time. And I'm like, nah, he's not a prospect. They don't want to move him up because they know he's going to get smoked. And that's exactly what happened when he fought Jesus Ramos. I was so like, why are they hyping up Joey Spencer every time they put him on a card with the PBC? But he did come back and get a win here against a guy that's 11-24. But I think Joey, they were doing the same with Josh Kelly, but at least with Josh Kelly, there was hype because of him being an Olympian and, just because he was so flashy in his style. So I get the hype behind it. So when he lost to David Avanesian, of course, it took a hit on his career and his buzz. But with Joey Spencer, they was treating him like a prospect for years. And I'm like, bro, you're not a prospect anymore. Like, you got to step up and fight somebody at some point. And they put him against Jesus Ramos, and he got dominated, man. And it was expected. And I'm not trying to diss him for taking a loss. It's just that I just don't like when fighters are getting hyped up and they're just keep him at a space where he's just fighting the same level of fighters continuously. You got guys like Keyshawn Davis who's slowly stepping up. You have Andy Cruz, who just fought this weekend, is slowly stepping up. You just kept Spencer in the same space and kept treating him like a prospect every year. And every time he fought, the commentators was like, oh, he's one of the hype guys that's coming up. He's not like a young guy anymore. He's experienced. Put him in there with a real fighter at some point. It didn't have to be Jesus Ramos, but it needed to be somebody, Yeah, L-Dub. L-Dub, that's a fact. L-Dub said Joey Spencer won PBC Prospect of the Year 3 years in a row. You guys, that's a fact, bro. This is exactly what I mean. I was just getting annoyed by that. But going back to what I was saying, we can't forget Jesus Ramos. And I don't know what Brian Castano was doing, because him losing to Jamel Charlo, it shouldn't be a way to like leave the game. You know, that's really messed up. Like if he really, and I said this the other day, if he really is not going to come back to the sport, that's messed up because it's like, bro, yo, his style is dangerous for everybody because he is super, his engine is crazy, but he's a highly technical pressure fighter. You know what I mean? He's kind of like Deverenchenko in a way. Like, but I just think like, well, I don't want to say he's better or anything like that, but the when it comes to, he's such an accurate volume puncher. Let me say that. He's an accurate volume puncher. He's just not throwing a lot of punches and missing. He's throwing a lot of punches, but he's connecting. You know what I mean? And he's giving everybody trouble. Obviously, he gave Charlo a lot of trouble, even when he was stopped. He gave Lara hell. You know what I mean? He beat Chisera. And he's not the biggest guy at 154, but he was able to still do damage. And that's whack if he's just gonna like just not come back, man. I hope he comes back very soon. L-Dub says Castanos was just in camp with Cashapp for Adames and Bohachuk for Virgil. So Castanos waiting for a fight there. All right, if that's the case, that's cool because I want to see him back. I want to see him back bad. And I want to see him fight some of these other guys like a Tszyu or Virgil Ortiz or something because he has a very, very effective style. And I want to see him in the near future for real. All right. Who else? Xander Zayas. So Xander Zayas. So I wanted to bring him up. And Xander is good. But he is in a division that is the toughest division. And even though he's very good to me, I think if he was like at 140, you know, or maybe if he was a little bigger and he was at 160 right now, I think he would be shining. But the moment they step him up at 154, it's going to be very difficult for him. I'm going to have to be honest. I just brought up Jesus Ramos a minute ago. I don't know if he beats Jesus Ramos. I don't know if he beats Arison Lubin. I don't know if he beats some of these guys. These guys that from Tszyu, Bakram, like Bohachuk, you know, Virgil Ortiz. If they do Virgil Ortiz against Xander Zayas, Puerto Rican against Mexico, come on, dog. Like Xander's good, but he's at one of the most difficult divisions because if you're fighting a top 10 guy, you might lose, bro. You might lose. If he fights any of these top 10 guys, you might lose, bro. Look at this top 10. Because Xander is at 13. So I don't know where he's ranked, but he's got to be somewhere. Top 10. Ramos, Lubin, Murtazaliev, Bohachuk, Charlo, Tszyu, Fedora, Madrimov, Ortiz Jr., and Crawford? Does he beat any of those guys right now? I don't know, but he's going to be in a position, I would have to say maybe in a fight or two, he might be right in that space. He might be sharing the ring with one of these top 10 guys. So before we get to the top 10 guys, I need to see him against a Conwell. I need to see him against a Brandon Adams. You know what I mean? Butayev is at 154 now, right? He's not at 147 anymore. You know what I mean? I think Amalgamed Kurbanov is the perfect matchup for him to move up. And the same with Charles Conwell. All right, I think those two should fight a Kurbanov who just got stopped by Madrimov. All right, I want to see a Xander Zayas against a Michelle Soro. You know what I mean? Just to give me, I need a little bit more. You know what I mean? I need a Brian Mendoza, You know what I mean? And you can't even sleep on Brian because I think Brian Mendoza is right outside of that top 10. You know, I know BoxRec have him all the way down at 31 because of his recent losses, but Brian Mendoza, we know what he can do. We seen what he can do. We see what he can do. You can't sleep on Brian Mendoza. So for anybody who's going to step up, like a Conwell, if Conwell's going to step up, he should be fighting Brian Mendoza. If Xander is stepping up, he should be fighting a Brian Mendoza, someone on that level. That's, yo, you can't sleep on Brian Mendoza. You can't sleep on him. So that's a dangerous division if you're on the come up right now. Very, very dangerous for a guy that's looking to prove, you know, that he belongs. And it's just a lot of sharks, like you just said. Yeah, Mike Robb said, yeah, Xander is young, and those are shark infested waters. He might need 2 or 3 years of season. You know, I think he needs to fight some of those names I just brought up. You know, I think he needs to fight some of those names before we get in there with the top 10. Again, I wouldn't even put him in the ring with Jesus Ramos, and he's number 10 on BoxRec. I wouldn't even put him in there with him. It's too soon. It's too soon. Because Ramos might wash some of these other dudes in the top 10. There's no telling because a lot of these dudes didn't fight each other yet. A lot of these guys got to the very top, not fighting the very best. They just ranked up. Bohachuk ranked up. You know, I mean, he beat Brian Mendoza, so I get that. But he ranked up. Bakram? Who did Bakram fight? Jack Koke? All right, that's cool, but he ranked up. Let's be real. He ranked up. Like guys like Erison Lubin, part of that last class. You know what I mean? He fought really good fighters. You know what I mean? Ramos, you know, he fought some good fighters. It's yo, 154 ain't nothing to play with, bro. Nothing to play. It's not a game. It's not a game. So let me ask y'all something. Let's say 2 years go by, because I don't think 154 undisputed happens quickly unless step aside money gets put up. Let's say where we we're 2023, right? Crawford just fought, Ortiz is fighting. I think the earliest we may get it undisputed, if everything goes perfect, the earliest we can get it undisputed is by late 2025, early 2026. That's the earliest, right? If everything goes smooth. With that being said, I want to say by 2026, it's a new year, and we have an undisputed champion. Who are your bets? Who would it be, in your opinion? We're going to 2026. And all of these guys that I just named, mix it up. Who do you think has the greatest chance of becoming undisputed at 2026? Or do you think that we're not going to get undisputed at 2026 or undisputed champion with this batch of fighters? I'm going to give you my answer, but I want to hear yours first. Give me a name. Or do you see you don't see an undisputed at 154? What do you guys think? I think Thurman is going to come back to 154, but I think he's going to come back for the bag. I don't think he's coming back to mix it up with just anybody and being ranked fights. All right, let me see what you guys say. You guys said QT says, I think Crawford makes undisputed in late 2025. The bag is there to make the fights. Okay. Okay. Chance says Bud, mother, effing Crawford. Drywater says Crawford. Mike Robb says maybe Tim or Madrimov. E-Class says Tim or Crawford. Afro-Rican says, I see Boots. Okay. Okay. Alex says Boots moving up. El Chivo says Arrow is there too. Yeah. I don't know how that fight with Fundora is going. And I'm only saying that because I don't know where Arrow is at right now. You know, I think Fundora is coming off his best win, even though I think, you know, there's an asterisk next to the win because of the elbow and the damage that it did. But I'm not sleeping on Fundora. You know, a year or two ago, I would have told you Spence for sure. But now I don't know. I don't know. Arrow's coming off of a beating, and he's also rusty. And the way it's looking, it looks like this fight won't happen until the very end of the year or early next year. And that sounds like it's even more of a delay for Spence. So I don't know. All right. My answer is I can't bet on or against Crawford. So I think Crawford right now has the best chance of becoming undisputed. I personally think that he just fought against one of the most dangerous guys at 154. You know, and I know a lot of fights didn't happen yet, especially this fight this weekend. You know, the Baccarat fight with Tszyu didn't happen yet. Spence and this Fedora didn't happen yet. So we got a lot of fights to go. But I think Crawford at least passed one of the toughest tests, if not the toughest test at 154. I also think that Virgil is one of the toughest tests too. And I think, you know, Tszyu is as well. But I think he passed one of the toughest. I think that says a lot going into the new year. And I think Crawford is going to be more active now. But the longer we go, the more difficult it's going to become for him because he's only aging each year and he's already going to be 37 next month. So the longer things go, the harder it'll become. But I'm not going to bet against Crawford. I have to see a dramatic change and a decline in him for me to pick against him. You know, for now, I'm still leaning towards Crawford getting it, but I'm 50-50 because I don't know how long. I think anybody can lose on any given night in this division. I don't think anybody just remains undefeated. You know, I think if anybody remains undefeated, I think Crawford I think he has the best chance based on what he's done. But I also think that 154 is a different animal. And I think everybody at some point, as long as they stay here, they're going to lose at some point. It's going to happen. And they're going to bounce back. But styles make fights. And I think everybody's going to face off against someone that's just going to be too much for them that night. It's just the way I see it. Jamie from New York says, salute Boxingwave. Salute to you. Cutesy says, I hate Fedora's new style. He's a pop shot waiting to happen. Tim was fighting him out before the cut. Yeah, I think, and I agree with that. The cut definitely changed the rhythm of the fight. Starfox, what's up, bro? He says, Errol needs to head out to Jamaica and just sit on the beach with some rum. That man survived 2 car crashes and a Crawford beatdown. Time to chill. I agree. All right. I think he's going to do one more fight. I think he wants to get one more bag, at least 1 or 2 more bags. And I think he's going to go. And if everything is true about the lawsuit with his old coach, Derek James, and he has to pay we're talking millions. This is probably why he's going to do a couple more fights, because you don't want to go out the game owing people money. That's like some real life shit. Like, you don't want to leave the game knowing that you got to pay somebody, and we're talking millions. You know what I'm saying? So I think the biggest question mark out of all of these guys that I just named at 54 is Errol Spence. You know, I mean, even doing a breakdown, that's going to be hard because I can't do it just off simply watching film study and stuff like that. I can't do it based off that. I got to do it just how I feel about how I, or what it's going to just be an assumption on where I think Errol is at. You know, because I just think that based on timing, it would be Fundora's favorite to win. You know, Chance says Bud is like 97.98 Jordan at 54. Yeah, I feel you on that. Mike Ross says, I don't know if Crawford cares if he wants to dispute it. It's his, but I think he will pick Lara versus Danny Garcia winner. Nah, absolutely not. Hell no. For what? Oh, for another championship title? Okay. But I don't think so. I think Crawford wants to dispute it. Because being a 5-division champ has been done. Not by many, but it's been done. Being a 3-division undisputed champ has not been done by anyone. That's where he wants to go. You know, that's where he wants to go. All right, guys. I don't know who Spence is going to be his next coach. I don't know. You know, 13. No, I was just saying that I am very curious about Spence's return. I just don't know how he's going to be. All right, guys. Great video, great chat with you guys, man. Y'all have a good day. Next video I'll be doing will be Virgil Ortiz against Sergey Bohachuk, and I'll do that breakdown today. Hopefully, I'll get it out to you by later this afternoon or early this evening. And again, y'all have a good day, man. And I will see you guys Saturday for the live commentary for Virgil Ortiz. All right, take care, peace.